She knew the rules and she died by them.
Her friends discovered a diary she kept, detailing her conversations with detectives.
She knew that she was in danger. We had given her information that she herself had been green-lighted.
17 and pregnant, this former gang member wanted a better life. She was placed into the witness protection program. So how did she wind up dead on the side of a river?
God, then your mother, then your gang. You live for God, you live for your mother, you die for your gang.
You say she was a happy girl, but you're convicted of killing her.
Join me on my YouTube channel as we dive into this shocking case. What's up, y'all? I'm back like I never left. I apologize. Y'all know it's been a minute, but hey, let's get right into this thing. So tonight I'm going to be talking about the case of Brenda Paz. Now, Brenda Paz was a teenage girl who was brutally murdered by MS-13. She was a former gang member. So on a warm night in Arlington, in early June of 2002, a teenage boy and a teenage girl were both in the process of stealing a car. Now, this is something that they had done many times before throughout multiple different neighborhoods in multiple states, and they probably would have gotten away with it. But the young lady saw a car seat in the back seat of the car. And so when she saw this car seat, she stopped and she said, hey, you know, I don't want to steal this car. This is a car that belongs to a family. And so while she was kind of like debating with her partner in crime, Arlington County Police pulled up and both of these young teenagers were arrested. Now, I wish that the case simply ended there, but this is the beginning. Now, the young man that was arrested that night was Dennis Rivera, also called Rabbit. Okay, and he was a member of the MS-13 gang, and he was not just a regular member of the gang. He was one of the top leaders of MS-13 in Arlington, Virginia. Now, he was wanted for multiple crimes, y'all. This included murder, drug charges. And so when he was arrested, of course, they ran his background and they saw all of these warrants that he had, and he was held. Now, the young lady that had been out there that night with him, who had been actively trying to steal a vehicle, was named Brenda Paz. And Brenda Paz was Rivera's girlfriend. And she was also a member of the MS-13 gang. Now, at some point when Brenda was arrested, she herself faced a lot of different charges. And these charges were not necessarily for crimes that she herself had committed, but they were accessory because the police felt like, hey, you may not have committed these crimes, but you were there, you were on the scene, you had knowledge. Now, somehow or another, Brenda decided to start cooperating with law enforcement.
Thinking about all the stuff you do, that makes you get your conscience. You start thinking, damn, look at all the stuff that I've done through my life for this stupid gang. It's just 2 letters and it doesn't mean anything. You start thinking about that. Your conscience starts working. You start feeling bad about stuff. That's when you become a rat.
Now, the thing about Brenda had a uniquely keen ability to memorize phone numbers, memorize dates, memorize names and quantities of money and other details that were, you know, very important when you're talking about the operation of a gang. So Brenda was very valuable to MS-13. She was also very valuable to the local law enforcement once she actually started working with them. Now, in exchange for her working with them, law enforcement actually agreed to start Brenda off with a new life. They would give her, you know, a new ID, give her a new social security number, and basically help her to get relocated. Now, I'm not sure exactly how long Brenda was working with law enforcement, but I do know that she helped law enforcement to close a lot of cases. Over 60 cases. She had firsthand knowledge of how MS-13 operated. Now, to give you some background on Brenda was at this time when this first happened, when she was stealing this car. She was a 17-year-old young female. Now, I've read different reports. I have read some reports that say she was with the MS-13 gang since she was 13, and I've heard other reports that have said she was with the gang since she was 12. But I listened to an interview that Brenda actually did with law enforcement, and Brenda, in her own words, said that she was first initiated into MS-13 when she was 11 years old. So I'm going to go with what Brenda said. And at this time, when she was arrested with her boyfriend Rivera, who again was a high-ranking leader in the MS-13 gang, she was 17 years old at this time. So she had already been with this gang for a very long time. Now, this young lady was originally born in Honduras, but she moved to Los Angeles. And when she moved to Los Angeles, she was very young. When she moved to Los Angeles, she ran away from home. And this is how she ended up being caught up and introduced to MS-13. She also ended up living in Texas at one point with MS-13, helping them commit certain crimes. And now at this point in June of 2002, they were living in Arlington, Virginia. Okay, so she had agreed to work with law enforcement. Now, the story gets a little bit interesting here because, again, there have been different reports. I have read several reports that have said that at one point or another, Brenda was not very low key about her position as a police informant. She was basically telling other people in this gang, hey, I'm working with law enforcement. And then there have been other reports that say, okay, she wrote all of this in her diary, and some members of MS-13 found her diary and they read it. I believe it could have been a little bit of both. But somehow MS-13 found out that she was a police informant. Now, when MS-13 found this out, she was actually gone at this point. She was in witness protection, and she was actually doing really well in witness protection. There are reports that she had re-enrolled into school. She was taking some kind of vocational training courses, and she was trying to better her life. Now, at this point, she was pregnant. Okay, so she's 4 months pregnant. She's living in Minneapolis, and she is taking classes trying to better her life, and she is currently in the witness protection program. Now, at some point, Brenda grew very restless and very bored with her current life. She missed her gang family. The U.S. Marshals had put her up into a hotel, and so she was actually calling gang members, okay, of MS-13 and saying, hey, you know, come up here, I'm bored. Now remember, she's supposed to be in witness protection, y'all, and she's reaching out, calling these friends of hers who are MS-13 gang members to come up there where she's at and hang out with her. And some of these gang members actually did come up there and hang out with her. Now, let me backtrack for 1 second. Before Brenda was moved to Minneapolis, she was actually in Kansas City under the witness protection program. And when she was in Kansas City, she actually started, it is believed that that is when she started contacting her former MS-13 gang partners or gang family. And some of them actually came up to Kansas City to visit her. And there's even a report that at one particular occasion, her quote unquote handler, okay, which is the U.S. Marshal that was in charge of supervising her and checking in on her, making sure that she was okay in Kansas City, he came to the hotel room to check in on her, and unbeknownst to him, Brenda had several of her MS-13 buddies hiding in the bathroom. Now, we're going to rewind back to Minneapolis. While all of this was going on, law enforcement had received very credible information that a hit was put out on Brenda. And law enforcement claims that they told her specifically, hey, you've been green lighted. Now, in MS-13, green lighted is a code for an order to kill. And Brenda, for reasons unknown to any of us, she knew what this gang was capable of. And so she made the fatal mistake of knowing that there was a hit out on her. She still decided to reach out to some of these people in this MS-13 gang who she considered friends. Okay, and so the gang, several of the members, I believe 3 or 4 members, came down to Minneapolis where she was staying in a hotel. They picked Brenda up, and Brenda voluntarily left the witness protection program. Okay, and she goes back to Arlington/Alexandria, Virginia with this gang, and 3 weeks later she was found in this river. Now, ultimately what ended up happening was these gang members who picked her up had an order to kill her. Now, they took her down to the river on the pretext of, hey, we're going fishing. Okay, so they told her, hey, we're going fishing. Once she got into the woods, she was held down by one young man. And while he was holding her down, another gang member proceeded to viciously stab her. And when I say another gang member, it was more than one. There were several gang members there who proceeded to stab her. She was stabbed anywhere from 12 to 13 times. Her throat was slit, and she was left alone on the riverbank to die. Now, reportedly, according to some of the gang members who were involved in this murder, they said that at some point Brenda was on the ground and saying, just leave me here, just leave me here. And they said that that is exactly what they did. They stabbed her up, and then they left her there to bleed out and die. And he had a rope around her neck while she was being stabbed and attacked. I do not believe that he was just an innocent bystander.
I was facing the river, I was watching. I was enjoying the view. It was summertime. It was nice. They was behind me, fixing the fishing pole, and I took my face.
You say she was a happy girl, but you're convicted of killing her.